been to Minnesota in probably 20 years. Bring gas.
Welcome to Flagrant Howls, a Minnesota Timberwolves lifestyle podcast.
Okay, before we get to our Monday State of the Wolves here, we got the Sports Dad, we got the Dexter in the house, Phil Mackey, Flagrant Howls, your favorite Timberwolves lifestyle podcast. Over in the North Loop, just a couple blocks away from Target Center, is a glorious place called Bricksworth. You can just walk right over before or after any home game, or perfect for away games with all the TVs to watch the Wolves on. And you can enjoy some of the best dry rub wings and Detroit-style pizza you're going to find.
Oh, yeah.
Drink the signature Nas Reed Hazy IPA. And again, super close to Target Center, so you and a group can gather beforehand or afterwards. A sprawling patio, too, which this weekend it was like 50 degrees.
Yeah, it's nice.
Still patio season. There's an event space, but and then there's the OG location in Burnsville, too. But Bricksworth, Burnsville, and more specifically the North Loop, just blocks away from Target Center. And we want to remind you guys, too, that this is Give to the Max week. And we at Score North on Flagrant Howls and across our podcasts are putting our support behind the Bond Between, which was formerly Secondhand Hounds. And since 2009, the Bond Between has rescued over 30,000 dogs and cats, thanks largely to your donations. So we'd love to raise a few $1,000s for this great cause. We all are not dog owners, dog lovers. Mm-hmm. As we were watching some dog documentaries on Netflix, there's a difference between being an animal owner and an animal lover.
We're owned by our dogs. What are you talking about?
That's right.
Yeah.
We are humans owned by animals.
She's up now at 6 a.m. every day barking continually until I give her exactly what she wants.
Hey, Dad.
I don't run the house.
Dad.
The dog runs the house.
Apparently,
Stella.
someone was chewing their butt, and the other one was snoring last night. I won't say which one was who in the bed last night, but one of us wouldn't stop snoring, and one of us would.
Didn't know you were that flexible, Declan.
Yeah. I mean, I can do crazy things when I'm really that tired, I guess. So one of us was doing two of those things. Yeah.
By the way, scorenorth.com/donate. Scorenorth.com/donate.
You're young to snore.
Oh, I will say the last few years it's gotten bad. Last year or two, it's gotten really bad. Yeah.
I think you might be on the couch before long.
Yeah.
That doesn't work.
Would you rather be on the couch or get a CPAP machine? I think I'd rather try couch first for you.
You go couch.
Yeah, you go couch.
Oh, separate couch. It's great.
Yeah.
It's great.
All right, Dex is going to lead us through the State of the Wolves categories as we do this every single Monday. It's kind of just a framing up of where the Wolves are at and our opinions on things. So, Dex, guide us through here.
All right, State of the Wolves. Currently, the Wolves have an 8-6 record. They are 8-6 so far this season. They are 7th in the West due to tiebreakers. They're 3 games out of first place. 10th in offensive rating, 10th in defensive rating. They have a 59% chance to make the playoffs per ESPN.com. It depends on where you look at, too, because Basketball Reference says 41.9%. So that's a fairly decent discrepancy between the two there. They have a 0.8% chance to win the LOB per ESPN and just a 0.1% according to Basketball Reference. So Basketball Reference, not as high on the Wolves. ESPN is still a little bit higher despite a slower start. And if the playoffs started today, the Wolves would host the Grizzlies in a play-in, which would be a blast, by the way. Like, I think that'd be a raucous atmosphere. It'd be a lot of fun. Yes, it'd be disappointing if the Wolves were in the play-in, considering their preseason expectations. But that's your kind of overview of the State of the Wolves. Timberwolves vibes right now are blank. Judd, you want to lead us off here? What are the Wolves vibes
Sure I will. Because I come full of optimism following an OT win against the Kings and then a last-second win against the Suns last night on that Julius Randle 3. Timberwolves vibes are gelling. We're seeing the gelling process taking part here. Like, this is what we expected was going to take some time. And there have been some, no question, disappointments thus far. Back-to-back losses to a team like the Portland Trailblazers can't just be excused completely. But what I am seeing in these last 2 games, especially when it comes to Randle, I'm seeing gelling. So the vibes are starting to get like they should. And look, if this continues on this course, I think in about a month or so, the start is largely going to be forgotten. I think the odds of the Wolves making the playoffs will go up from everybody. So the word that I would use, Phil, is gelling.
Yeah, I would say Wolves vibes are prideful right now. That there were some questions, I feel like, the way that Miami game ended a week ago, and then the trip to Portland where they just, it's like their luggage showed up, but they didn't, is how that trip felt. They literally felt like, well, we'll just walk into the building and roll the basketball out, and we will beat Portland because Portland's terrible. And but then you get a couple days off, or you get a day off between the last Portland game and the Sacramento game, and then you get the Suns. And I just feel like you've got enough competitors on this team. Gobert is hyper competitive, and Anthony Edwards is almost to a point where it seems like Anthony Edwards gets bored too often, or will just go through periods. Like even yesterday, he had like 4 points. Really far into that game.
Yep.
And then he snaps out of it. And if you really want to be considered a LeBron level, like the face of the NBA, you have to just bring it every single night. And credit to him, he plays every night. A lot of guys don't play every night because of load management, but sometimes he's out there for stretches and you're wondering, dude, why don't you just like go all out all the time? But pride kicked in against the Kings, and then pride kicked in when they were down by double digits against the Suns. And boom, you saw more glimpses of what this team can be here. And I think you also showed that if you're the Wolves, people that were completely off the bandwagon and freaking out and panicking and, oh my God, after those 3 straight losses, Chris Finch should be on a hot seat and this was a terrible idea, this trade. Everyone take a deep breath. As, by the way, the sports dad was leading the charge of the don't panic mantra last week, which is, I feel like, very rare in your history.
It's too early.
And you were rewarded. You were
rewarded. A couple of bad defeats, but yeah, it's too. Look, that trade changed things. We all acknowledge that. But passing judgment at that point, 12 games in? Ridiculous.
In fact, if I were to have said to you, for perspective, not to excuse the Portland losses, like we agree on that.
Losses, no question.
But hey, so the season is starting. Go back a month. Season is starting. And I'm just going to fast forward to the 15th game. You have no idea how it happened, but this team is 8-6 through 14 games. No other information. Take it or leave it. I would have taken it. Okay, 8-6. Yeah, certainly not the start of last season, but you're telling me you made a trade, a blockbuster trade, hours before the season started, basically.
Right.
And the integration process of those guys, and just, okay, give me 8-6, and I'll figure out the rest of November and December and beyond.
Exactly.
Okay.
We're all calm.
Everyone calm down. My Wolves vibes right now are indeed what we're just talking. They're patient. My Wolves vibes are patient. Not patient because like they're half empty or any means. It's just we're a little bit patient here. We're getting things figured out still. They got off to they've had some bad losses, which I'll get into in the least favorite thing. But they're still patient. They've had to overhaul their roster after getting the Cat trade. Julius Randle hits a big shot. Donte DiVincenzo looks like maybe he's starting to get going after a big game yesterday. So good things. These are patient vibes. We don't have to get too high on ourselves, but don't get too low. Just patience as they figure things out and get towards, closer to that quarter mark of the season, which seems to be your first real benchmark to see what you have in an NBA team.
Yep. Deep breath, meditation vibes here. Not everything is going to be.
They're a good team, right? Like it would be different if we thought, well, Finch isn't that good a coach. Like if there were factors where we had expectations and then things were being exposed. But Chris Finch, he had a especially bad game coaching against the Heat a week ago Sunday, but he's not a bad coach. We know that.
I have a couple takes on him when we get to least favorite Wolves thing, by the way.
We know that. Here's one problem I think that we are dealing with right now when it comes to Wolves fans, and I'm going to absolve them to a certain degree. I don't know that Wolves fans are at a point yet, especially ones who have followed the team for, let's say, like the last 10 years, 5 years. I don't know if we're at a point yet where they know how to process how a normal NBA season might go.
Well, yeah, we're
like with a good team, like with a good team, Because, like, I think there's an expectation. I mean, there's no question we've sort of fallen, and it's fun, but we've fallen into the rut of breaking down games individually.
Well,
And
that's what makes it great. We're allowed to do that.
I
wouldn't call
agree.
that a rut.
Well, but when I did that with the Wild before, you've said you have to look at the big picture. You can't break it down because there's 82 games.
Oh, no. I said you can't overreact to
Well,
a
but
game.
we are.
We
But we have-
certainly are going to break down games, but you nailed it with the Portland games. Yeah, okay, there's room for this is bad, and let's not overreact to it and say that it's a bad trade or that Finch should be fired or all these things.
A lot of ebbs and flows is my point. A lot of ebbs and flows. And if we think that this is a good team, which I do, I think ultimately it will be fine. Are they going to set a record for victories in a season? No. Are they going to make the playoffs? Yes. Are they most likely going to be a top 6 team? Yes.
I
Dex?
don't
No,
think
let's get to the next category. Let's get to the next category.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, next category here. Your current favorite Wolves thing. Your favorite current Wolves thing.
Go ahead, Phil.
Okay. I'm gonna jump in and say Julius Randle is my current favorite Wolves thing. The step back game winning 3, the vibes, him mocking Devin Booker, putting his hands up in the air, Alan Horton doing the welcome to Minnesota, great call on the radio side. And it shouldn't be like an apples to apples Cat versus Julius Randle comparison, because different players, different contracts, just different histories, expectations. But he did take Cat's place in the starting lineup, so there's going to be some direct comparisons. And I would say one of the biggest observations I have through the first 14 games, and Cat has been awesome offensively for the Knicks. I mean, he's having one of his best offensive seasons of his career, and they're still trying to figure things out at 7-6. But a lot of the things that drove you nuts about Cat, Julius Randle is the antithesis of those things. Cat is I think he is the most foul heavy. It's like him and like Triple J from Memphis are like the 2 most foul happy players in the league the last couple of years. But Cat is a foul machine, offensive foul machine. Julius Randle averages 1 fewer foul per game than Cat, which is astronomical. He's rarely finding himself with like 5 fouls, end of the third quarter, or 2 fouls in the first 4 minutes, like Carl did. Personality, Cat's personality can be a little over the top and dramatic, and just flailing his arms and yelling at officials. That's a foul. That's a foul. Julius Randle, much more stoic.
Oh, God.
Emotionless.
Yep.
More of a robot personality-wise. Cat, athletically, he can hit threes, but a little bit more clunky and flaily athletically. And I feel like watching Julius, he's more of a smooth operator with the basketball. He'll still barrel into defenders and commit some fouls, but that step back 3, he's moving like a guard would, where it's boom, boom. And of course, Josh Okogie, former Timberwolf, way oversold.
Oh, he took the
push there.
He took the dive there,
You don't
man.
call that. Yeah. But and now there's some things that Cat brings and his size and rebounding and stuff that Julius Randle is not bringing here. But I just think it's if you are sick of 3 or 4 things on Cat's checklist, Julius Randle has come in a very refreshing way, and he's playing really well off Anthony Edwards too. Yeah. When the Suns are, paying double team attention to Anthony Edwards, Julius Randle can come in and get his 35 plus points or whatever. Yep. So Julius Randle is my favorite current Wolves thing.
And that one was going to take time. Like that's another thing. Like that's not a guy who's going to step in and immediately just bang. And I think what we're seeing now is he's becoming comfortable in the flow of the offense, which is huge. But I also think that just with his surroundings, like that trade was, you're basically taken from, well, in Cat's case too, you're taken from a place that you've been for a long time, right? And you're traded, and now it's like new teammates, new home, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, that's again why I think trying to pass judgment on that guy through like 12 games was ridiculous.
Yeah.
My favorite thing, I'm going to rewind to Friday's game in Sacramento. My favorite thing about that game in particular was Anthony Edwards' ability to take over a game when he needs to. In that game, he scored 36 points, but probably just as importantly, or more so, after the Wolves had blown a 20-point lead in the fourth quarter, they forced OT, and Ant scored 7. I love the Ant who basically you can tell says, get out of my bleeping way. I'm going to win this game. And in some ways, that's what he did on Friday, which is what a great player does when his team is playing suspect basketball. The loss to the Heat was a bad loss because of the circumstances. The loss to the Blazers were just bad because it's the Blazers. And, the Wolves go up by 20, fourth quarter. It looks comfortable. They blow the entire thing. And Ant's like, okay, time for Ant. That's what, and this needs to become more consistent. But when we talked about the Olympic experience, that to me is reflective, which is I'm going to win this game by myself if that's what it takes. So I love seeing those glimpses of Ant, which I think is going to hopefully become more frequent when he basically decides everyone buzz off. It's time for me.
Yeah, and that was supposed to be De'Aaron Fox's celebration, right? He put up 60 points in that game for the Kings.
Stupid.
And they come back from down like 20 points, and it really should have been a coronation of De'Aaron Fox, and Anthony Edwards comes in. He's like, no, I think we'll just be winning this game here.
Yes,
real quick.
Huge win.
So get out of our way. Yeah.
My favorite current Wolves thing was yesterday was a much needed game for Donte DiVincenzo. So he's gotten off to a very slow start for this season. Comes off the bench, hit 4 3-pointers in that second quarter. Finally gets his shot to fall a little bit. You're not going to see him obviously hit 4 of his first 3-pointers in every single game, but he ends up shooting 5 of 10. Was a plus 10 off the bench for the Wolves. That was a game Dante desperately needed. I certainly wasn't panicking over Dante's slow, ineffective start from a shooting perspective so far this season, but that feels like kind of like a exhale game for Dante. Like, okay, I know I'm still capable of that. Now the shot starts falling a little bit more. I think Dante really, really needed that type of game. I mean, he's going to still be playing 20 to 25 minutes a night, and you can't have him shooting 30% from the floor from behind 3. So him going out yesterday, having an effective game, I think is a monkey off the bat and just a big exhale for Donte DiVincenzo.
Yeah, I saw there. Maybe this could have been saved for the stat of the week category, but I'll throw it out now. Jake Painting from Wolves Twitter and YouTube saw it was like 38% 3-point rate or 3-point make percentage when DiVincenzo's out there with Conley, but he can't make a 3 when Conley's not out there freeing out. So there's something to be said for DiVincenzo moving off ball and catch and shoot versus step backs or coming off screens as the ball handler. Mm-hmm. So I guess what I would be watching if I'm this coaching staff, and far be it for me, never come close to coaching an NBA game myself.
Got some advice.
But I would say if DiVincenzo is better as an off-ball shooter with this team, then you need to find ways to unlock that even when Mike Conley is not on the court, because Mike Conley's not playing 38 minutes. So if that means more Dillingham or just finding other ways to free up DiVincenzo, then they should make room for that. Before we get to the other categories here, least favorite thing, Dex, tell the audience about the Fillmore, which is one of our favorite spots at Score North, and they have some great concerts coming up as well.
Yes, they do. Yeah, we were able to hang out there last April, pack the place with a bunch of fun Vikings fans, and you can also go see some rock stars there, some great musical performances. They have comedy shows too, so it's not just music. But the Fillmore, scorenorth.com/tickets. It's steps away from Target Field and even Target Center if you're looking for a night in or night out in Minneapolis after a Wolves game or you're in town. Go check out a show at the Fillmore, scorenorth.com/tickets to learn more.
And you know what? Maybe if you have a gap in your schedule between concerts, you could get your teeth cleaned at Park Dental, huh?
Wow.
Maybe you got a big smile on your face because A, the Timberwolves have won back-to-back games, and B, you found a new great dentist, which is what I did after being dentistless there for like a year and a half. My old dentist decided to retire. I guess I forced him into retirement. And so Park Dental stepped up, and for over 50 years, they've been caring for and cleaning teeth in Minnesota and western Wisconsin. So if you're like me, you're looking for a new dentist, looking for a great experience, go to parkdental.com to schedule your checkup. Parkdental.com. Get a big smile on your face. Very exciting.
Get
Okay,
those choppers.
that's
Nice
right.
and clean.
Gotta have
I'll
your
be,
clean teeth.
I'll be
no
due
question.
again here in a couple months.
Get
Looking
those gums,
forward to it.
Gums in good shape. Got to have
Yep.
that too. Very
Gotta have the gums.
Don't want
important.
the
Good.
bloody gums. Yeah, you
Don't
want the bloody
ever
gums.
underestimate
No.
the importance of those
Never
gums.
underestimate the bloody gums.
Yeah.
All
make
right,
sure you
what
follow.
is your least favorite Wolves thing right now, Judd?
You know what? I'm going to go with a little bit off script here, and I'm going to go with something from yesterday's game, an NBA thing, though, okay? So this is a game against the Suns. It's a hell of a game, right? Rematch of the first round last year. Wolves are legit good. Suns without KD and Beal, but they're still good. This game started at 2:30 in the afternoon in...
Spree Spree don't like playing in the daytime, as Sam Cassell once said.
It was a rare start against National Football League games, including the Vikings and Titans. The reason? Primetime teams scheduled for primetime coverage in European markets on Sunday nights. So let me get this straight. A game that I would have loved to have watched, it easily could have been played at 6 o'clock last night, right? Was scheduled as a primetime game in Europe. So it started in an NFL window here. I'm sorry. I know the games are important in Europe. You can pick some other games, but Wolves Suns, I really would have liked to have watched that game from start to finish. And heck, if it started at the right time, I would have liked to have gone. So from a Wolves fan perspective, that was really inconvenient so Europe could watch that game.
I feel like we're the NFL too is guilty of it, where we're kind of bending over backwards for Europe here.
Right. Well, and
Maybe we should focus on our own house here.
And how about-
okay, Adam Silver?
And how about lots of European Wolves games starting in, let's say, February, when the NFL's basically done?
Yeah, I don't disagree.
It just
with
wasn't
you here.
convenient at all.
And maybe Europeans could just stay up late and watch basketball late.
I'd be fine with that too. But I'm not joking. Suns Wolves rematch first round. Great. Heck, when the schedule came out, that's a great looking game on the schedule. Yeah, that's my biggest Wolves complaint. The start time of yesterday's game.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. It's kind of a let's push that thing back to like 5:30 and get out of the way of the Vikings.
Fair.
You know?
Very fair.
Okay, my least favorite current Wolves thing is Chris Finch. I'm not calling for him to be on the hot seat. I'm not calling for him to be fired. Love me some Finchy.
No, you don't.
Love me some Finchy, but some tough love here. Okay. He's had kind of a bad week. The first of all, the end of the Heat game, which we talked about last Monday, was a disaster. Where he pulls Rudy Gobert off the court because Eric Spoelstra puts a small lineup out there, kind of baits the Timberwolves into taking the Defensive Player of the Year out. They wind up getting a wide open layup and an and one. Too much Mike Conley down the stretch, not enough Nickeil Alexander-Walker. And then to lose the back-to-back games in Portland, just to not have the guys ready to, and some of it's on the players, but then you fast forward to the Kings game on Friday night. And the Wolves are up by 20 points. The King, I think it was an 18-point game to start the fourth quarter. And the Kings go on an 18-0 run to tie the game. And Chris Finch did not call a timeout until it got down to like 3 or maybe 2. And he just Phil Jackson style, just go figure it out, guys. Well, you know what? They're not. And you also just lost these games this week. This team is clearly not at 100% right now. And so to let that lead dwindle all the way down. And then I would just say, too, you are now 14 games into an 82-game season, and we still can't find a little room. We can't find 2 chunks, 1 in each half for Rob Dillingham to distribute, to take a little bit of the load off, because they do have a ball handling problem for large chunks. They've cut the turnovers down the last couple games, but Nickeil can do it. DiVincenzo can do it. Ant can do it. And there's times where you're going to let those guys do it. But Dillingham was a top 10 pick. You traded up to get him. And I'm nudging Finchy here. We've seen some good things from Dillingham.
I think calling for his job, but that's just me.
I'm not calling for his job either. And I'm not even saying 30 minutes for Dillingham. I'm not saying 20. How about 12? How about 8? Just a couple little stints in the first and second half just to develop a guy and have him ready for like March and April if you have a need for a longer rotation, or if one of your guys gets hurt down the stretch. Like, what happens if Conley gets hurt and you haven't? It's just let's start the integration process a little more aggressively here. So, Finchy, come on.
So, about for our second item, I believe it was in this show, you said that you had a suggestion, but didn't know much about coaching and weren't trying to tell Finchy what to do. The last thing you just basically said was, Finchy, this is what you should do.
This is what
you've come a long way
expert.
in your basketball acumen within the confines of today's program.
So here's Dillingham's minutes. All right, and this maybe is Finchy would push back at me and say, okay, well, we put him out there for 6 minutes against Phoenix. And he was out there for 3 minutes in that game against the Kings. 9 minutes the second game against Portland with Conley out.
Yep.
And then 6 minutes the first game against Portland. He did not. There was a game that he didn't play, the Heat game. I don't think he played the Heat game. Yeah, but it was between the first Portland game and then the second two. Anyways, like the most minutes he's played in a game is 9 on a night where Conley was out. It's just I'd like a little more. I want to see more Dillingham.
Not that trust there, though. There's not that trust yet. I mean, it's very clear across the board that Finchy feels pressured to win with the veterans right now, and like the trust in the younger players is just not present.
Yeah.
But I understand your point, because it's eventually in a season like this, you cannot continue down this path, or you're going to have to insert guys like for when guys get hurt for long periods of time, and they're going to have no clue what they're doing.
Yeah.
So I get it.
My least favorite thing, before I give you guys a stat of the week, least favorite thing is just dropping games of teams you need to beat. And I know it's early, it's fine, but like when you look at the final standings, and if the Wolves are indeed, let's say, a play-in team, and they're out the top 6 by a game, and you lost too early to Portland, you lost to a depleted Miami Heat team, like those type of little things do matter in the long run. So my least favorite thing is just not taking care of business of teams you should absolutely beat the brakes off of. Like, yeah, they beat Denver. They lost a close one, which was a fun one, to Dallas earlier this season. They beat the Suns on a buzzer beater yesterday. But you need to take advantage against some of the bad teams. That's what killed the Wolves a few years ago in their standings and seedings. So take advantage against some of these bottom-feeding teams when you have the opportunity. And now the Wolves obviously are going to play Boston. They have some bigger dogs in the schedule. But take care of the teams need to beat. That'd be my least favorite thing right now for the Wolves.
Yeah, because this is going to be a loaded. At the end of the season, it feels like the West is going to have probably 2 teams on the outside of the play-in that are feisty and tough to beat. And you're going to look back maybe, and the difference between being like the 4 seed and the 7 seed might be 2 clunker games in Portland.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's not a trap that you want to fall
Next
into.
week, next Sunday at Boston, 2:30. So I'm sure it's on in Europe against the Vikings and Bears game. What
Is this a new thing? I know they've had.
I don't know.
I feel like Sunday games are usually like 5 or 5:30 tip-offs. They're like a little earlier.
I feel like this is probably a new thing because the Wolves are a featured team now, right? Because of Ant.
Maybe.
So it's probably new for the Wolves.
Let's feature him in the United States.
Yeah, exactly right. That Celtics game. I'd like to watch that live.
Speaking of Ant, the stat of the week can be a safe space for any of us to throw out stats. So I want to give you a stat of the week here real quick. Anthony Edwards is currently 10th in scoring average, which is, it's not like he's not first or anything. So he's averaging 28.1 points a game, which is this is a career high to this point. Giannis is leading the entire league at 32.3. But I bring this up to show you the company that he is in right now. Okay. So Anthony Edwards, 10th in scoring average, is just behind Luka Doncic at 9th. So Ant is 28.1, Luka is 28.2, and just ahead of Kevin Durant. So in terms of prolific NBA scorers, Ant is in that group right now, just ahead of Durant, just behind Luka Doncic, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. De'Aaron Fox, after dropping 60, is up to 29 points a game. So he has emerged into the premier group and if he picks it up a touch, he's only 4 points away per game from leading the league with Giannis setting the pace up there. Mm-hmm. So the evolution of Anthony Edwards continues from a scoring standpoint. To be sitting there between Luka and Kevin Durant is really impressive. And he's still shooting 42% from 3-point range on crazy high volume, 11 and a half attempts per game.
Wow.
So, yeah.
So stat of the week, I saw this from Alan Horton too. So Julius Randle hit the first buzzer beater in over 5 years for the Timberwolves. It is just the
Really?
7th in the last 18 seasons and 18th in franchise history. Here were the last 7 buzzer beaters for the Minnesota Timberwolves. So Anthony Towns did it against Memphis in 2019.
Like a movie.
Like a movie. Andrew Wiggins had 2 actually in 2017. One in OKC, one also in Phoenix. I don't know if Phoenix was here for this Randall one.
The OKC game was that. I think it was an early season game there. It was fantastic.
Yeah, I do remember that game. Mm-hmm.
Luke Ridnour against the Jazz in 2012. There was a 5-year gap between the Wiggins last one in 2017 and a Luke Ridnour hitting one against the Jazz in 2012.
Wow.
You have the epic, probably shot that maybe not defined his career, but it's one of the more ones. Kevin Love beating the Clippers also that year in 2012. That was an epic shot. That Kevin Love where he has basically his hands up, a sweet poster of him. And then, do you guys remember who hit the buzzer-beating win in the season opener in 2009 for the Minnesota Timberwolves? This is an obscure Minnesota Timberwolf.
2009 season opener. So this would have been like early Kevin Love.
No.
Oh, man. I want to get this.
This is obscure as it gets, in my opinion.
2009. This would have been Johnny Flynn's rookie year. So it was like, who was playing on that team? Flynn. Was Telfair still on that team?
He made a 2-point jump shot from 9 feet to give the Wolves a 95-93 win over the New Jersey Nets at Target Center to start off the season. This is
it wasn't
Anthony, a great
was it Anthony
Wolf.
Tolliver?
No. He played 1 season with the Wolves. Was with Seattle and OKC before he came here. He actually, I think, went to Europe for 5 years and then came back in the NBA at age 38 to play 19 games with the Pacers in 2017-18.
What?
Yeah. Damian Wilkins.
Wow.
Damian
Wilkins.
Averaged 6 points in his NBA career. No other big shot than the season opener against the Nets at Target Center in 2009.
That's a great reference. A great reference, man.
It's hilarious.
Wow. So yeah, that is. It's funny because like they've had like Jimmy Butler never had one, and Kevin Garnett didn't have very many either. I think KG only had maybe a small handful in all of his time. Malik Sealy probably has the most famous one of the KG era, where he hit that like. Yeah, it was like a logo
Three
kind
at
of
last.
in the corner. Yes.
The Grandy call.
3 at last.
3 at last.
All right, there's your State of the Wolves here. Flagrant Howls, your favorite Timberwolves lifestyle podcast. We'll see you guys a few more times this week. Wolves have a few days off, and then Toronto and Boston. Buckle up. Buckle up. You're up.